You mentioned the revenue sharing, employment, whatever it looks like with NIL in a couple of years. What do you think, fast forward to 2027, what does college football look like then?
So I'm going to give you a broad answer because I've been trying my best to not get deposed.
I'm going to replay this with 2027.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. So there will be the financial rewards, financial benefits, the financial gains that come through college athletics will find their way to the student athlete's hands one way or the other.
Yeah.
I don't think employment happens. I do think and whether it's, you could look at the Alston Award right now and say that's a form of revenue sharing. It's got an academic component. I think if you would think of athletics in that sense, that the Alston Award would grow. Maybe or maybe not, there's an academic component to it, but the ability for much larger amounts of money to come under Alston. Does it replace NIL? It's not going to replace NIL.
Yeah.
NIL won't go away, and in place we'll see revenue sharing. It'll be revenue sharing plus NIL.
Yeah.
But I think NIL will be a much reduced factor. If you let's go back maybe 10 years ago now, when cost of attendance came in place. I remember coaches flipping out. We give $6,000 a year in cost of attendance, and that's a rival gives $7,000. We won't get a kid to come to school here.
Yeah.
We don't even talk about cost of attendance anymore.
It's irrelevant.
And so I think, NIL is that way. The pendulum was released and it went all the way to the other side. But NIL will be less of a focus, and the NIL maybe would be more, I think, the intended outcome of NIL, which is corporate partners and business relationships.
Real NIL deals.
Right, real NIL, if you will, and not a pseudo pay for play. Right.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about, conference realignment and everything that's happening in college football right now. You guys moving to the Big Ten, the Pac-12 essentially being no more, whatever ends up happening with it. What do you think happens in the future with conference realignment? Does it continue? Is there more realignment coming? Is there super conferences coming? Is there Power 5 breaking off from the Group of 5? What do you think makes the most sense in the future?
You guys know I love football. And this football season, I've been trying to find a new way to bet on sports. I'm sick of using casinos, the traditional way to do it. And I found the best way to do it, had to tell you guys about it. It's on Cut. Cut is the game-changing social betting platform. Look no further. This is where you gotta be. It's a peer-to-peer betting playground. So put your money where your mouth is. It's time to fire on sports on the best new app. I've been looking for a long time, and I found it. It's on Cut. Use my promo code ADAMB and get a 10% deposit match at cut.com. That's cut.com, Kutt.com. Use my code ADAMB for a 10% deposit match when you deposit money.
I think there's an equal chance of all of those things.
Yeah.
I do think the one thing, conferences, from a traditional, how we look at a conference standpoint, we don't need to be scheduling baseball as a conference, for example, or softball as a conference. And, most of us, like with golf and tennis right now, we have a conference championship, but we play somewhat in proximity. I think you will see that with many more sports. I think conferences, the influence will maybe focus more on football and basketball. There may be conference championships. But again, to reduce the travel, to reduce the time away from school, just from an economic standpoint, it's millions of dollars in travel costs that burden I don't know anybody needs, right? I think the more interesting piece that I don't fully have a read on right now is what happens to CFP and what happens to the governance of football. Football is the only sport that's not governed out of the NCAA. Well, it's governed out of the NCAA, but the championship is not. I fully believe that football will find its way from a governance standpoint outside of the NCAA. Whether that's under the CFP umbrella or some other umbrella. I don't think you can untangle football from the rest of the sports in a department. Some people talk about football incorporating separately from the university. I'm not sure I'm there on what that is.
Venture capital.
It's Title IX is still a factor, and just because you say I have a 28E or I have an LLC over here that's governing football, that doesn't relieve you from the Title IX and the equity pieces. So I don't know that I believe that's going to happen. I do think there will be a commitment that the academic component will remain in place.
Yeah.
I think, and we have to be careful of that because we can cuss and discuss everything that's happening. People are frustrated. We won't lose college athletics unless we disengage from the academic component.
Yeah.
And then if we do, it's no longer colleges, and at that point in time, this business model, there's no corporation in the world that would ever employ the business model we have in college athletics.
Yeah.
And the NFL doesn't. The pro sports organizations don't.
Yeah.
And so I think we have to be really careful about, I always worry about who's looking out for the greater good of this, because commissioners aren't. Commissioners are looking out for their leagues. IDs are looking out for their schools. The NCAA has almost been rendered toothless by the legal system in looking out for the. But who is looking out for the good of the whole? Because if we have to start making specific business decisions, there is one sport at the University of Washington that cash flows. And if you looked at it purely from a business standpoint, that's not what we want to get to.
Not a great business model, right?
Right, right.
I always thought it was so strange that, not strange, but just an issue that, for college football, as big of a business as it is and as important as it is, there's really no governing person over it. I mean, you could say the commissioners are in charge, but they're also in charge of, the Big Ten commissioners are also in charge of softball and swimming, and then you got the NCAA. But are they really in charge anymore? There's not a commissioner of college football. Do you think there needs to be one in place?
Nope. Because we wouldn't give them the authority.
Yeah.
How many? We just had it happen in the Pac-12. We're seeing it in the ACC right now. There was just in the Big Ten, member institutions suing their conference for trying to follow the rules that the conference has put in place. We don't have the patience or the tolerance to do anything except sue anybody that just doesn't have the opinion or the belief that we do. And sometimes we do that not because we believe it's the right thing, but we have a fan base, right? We have constituents we have to satisfy. I don't think there is a human being in the world. And you can say Nick Saban may be the John Wooden of our generation, but I don't know that you put Nick Saban in there and give him unilateral authority and people are going to accept it because it's Nick Saban, or whoever it is. People are going to challenge that. Yeah. I don't see the commissioners being willing to give up the authority that they have.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And unless it becomes conferences go away and every institution is its own, and you have an AFC and an NFC if you look at it from that standpoint, but they still have a designee who makes decisions for all of those institutions, and we don't have the homogeny that the NFL does.
Yeah. True.
Forget salary caps and everything else, but everything's the same. Yeah. The variance in talent is this. We have different academic philosophies. We have so many different things. The lack of homogeneity, I guess, it may be the part of the problem with us because we've always tried to regulate down to the lowest common denominator so no one was aggrieved. But by doing that, we really harmed those who are way above that denominator.